Hello guys, this is Tanya here from Free Heart, coming at you with the technique video. I don't know about you, but I sometimes struggle with getting my inspiration, getting my mojo. Sometimes it's hard to kind of slow down the thoughts in my brain. And it's also hard to like get out all your stuff. Like you want to do stuff, but then you have to go find the ink and you have to go find the gesso and you have to wait for paint to dry and all of these things that have to happen, that sometimes I just want to create and I just want to make something pretty. So today I'm going to talk about how you can kind of kickstart that mojo. So I'm featuring PaperArtsy stamps. So I have some Tracy Scott stamps here. You will soon learn how much I love Tracy Scott. She has these amazing stamps. This is one of her newer ones. It's TS050, kind of patterny stamps. This is another one. She has a whole bunch, but these are the ones I'm going to feature today. And here's another one. So when you look at these stamps, you're like, oh my gosh, those are beautiful, but what would I do with them? So she's created these where you can create your own designs and you can do your own patterns and kind of the repetition of. And some of you may know me that I don't like repetition. I don't like doing things over and over again. Coloring stresses me out because I don't have the right color. Trying to draw straight lines and trying to get a ruler out and all those things and measuring. I don't like to measure. So it's really hard for me to do something that's supposed to be therapeutic and kind of the same repetition over and over again. So this I've found is actually very helpful for me because I get to create something fast. It's beautiful and I can do something with it when I'm done. So I don't need a lot of stuff to do it. So that's what I want to focus on today. So let me show you some examples of what I did before, and then I'll show you how to do it. So we'll create a pattern. Then I will check back in with you. It'll be seconds to you, but it'll take a little bit for me, but I'll check back in with you and I'll show you how I colored them and how I kind of wrapped them up and finished that kind of pattern project that I have. Okay. So the other things that you're going to need other than these stamps is a little stamping block. This one I have from Tim Holtz. So some of you know I love Tim Holtz. He's my friend. This has a grid pattern on it. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but it helps me kind of maintain a straight line, right? My mat behind me has a grid that helps me maintain, at least eyeball, a straight line without using a ruler because I don't like using a ruler. And then I'm also using a VersaFine CLAIR Nocturne. This, you can use any ink that you want. This is one I had handy. It also creates a really crisp, black, fine ink image. Okay, so those are the tools that I'm going to use. Let me show you what I did before. Okay, so here's one sample. Here's two stamps that I used. Okay, so I kind of stamped them on the paper. I stamped this in the middle. Just did the same thing over and over again and created that really cool image. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet to color. When I come back to it, so after I color this and I go back to work, Tracy Scott always says it's in the pen work, right? The magic is in the pen work and after you do the pattern. So I'll talk a little bit more when I come back. I'll talk a little bit more about what I did to kind of spruce this up and the tools that I used. Okay, so there's one. Here's another one. Okay, this is two stamps just on a white piece of paper. So here's one stamp over and over again. Here's a second stamp and they fit perfectly together. So both of those are using this stamp set right here. Okay, so these stamps, these together. Okay. Then I did this one. This is another one using that stamp. Okay. You can see I did a little ink smudging there. My hands got a little inky. That's okay because I'm going to cover it up anyway. Let's go back to this. So I'm going to use 3 different stamps. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I picked out these 3 stamps from those stamp sets that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to create a pattern that looks something like that. Okay, so we're gonna kind of fit those together. I don't know how it's gonna look, but I'm gonna give it a try. Okay, so I'm gonna start with these stamps because these are gonna go in a line, and then these are gonna go in between. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. And to help me with that lining up, I'm going to put the peak of this little shape on the line here. Okay, so I'm just going to put that on, put this one aside, and I'm going to ink it up. Okay, so I've made sure my ink pad is very juicy. I don't use a lot of re-inkers, but in the case of this one and like archival ink, I make sure, I make sure that I ink it up so it doesn't, it's juicy. Anyway, I'm gonna go anywhere on here. I'm just gonna start in the middle of the page because that's what I do. And put that down. And I'm not using a stamping platform because number one, it's not really important right now that I keep it straight. This is kind of just a play because that's yet another tool I would have to go search out and do a stamping platform. I'm okay if it doesn't come out perfectly. It's just, I mean, it's just pattern play, right? So here's this stamp. I'm going to put it kind of backwards so it creates a mirror image of the first one. Okay, so that's back to back. Also, I don't necessarily want to get ink on my whatever this is, a mat, because I'll get ink all over myself. So let me just add a scrap piece of paper here. Okay, so now I was going to add this little kind of square looking thing. So I'm going to take this off. I'm not wiping it off yet. It's all right. So I'm again adding the point to point so that it is a little straight-ish. Ink that up a little bit more. And I'm going to stamp it here. The other thing to note, like this is a red stamp, so there's a little border around the actual stamp, so I didn't touch it. That's okay. Just kind of get a gauge if I put that kind of through my stamping. If I got an idea of where that is, that's okay. Okay, so there's my pattern I need here, so I'm going to repeat this, right? So they're going to be facing each other. So I'm going to take this, add it onto my platform, and I'm only going to need like the tip of it, so I'm not going to waste the ink there. I'm going to use my background stamp, try to straighten it out, and here. Okay, so there's the start. Now I'm going to have to decide, do I want it to be the same or do I want it to be like the opposite? Like if I did this, see how this is the different shape? So this, when I stamped it here, I could either do the same or kind of like the opposite way because it'll look like a line, right? Like go there. I'm gonna do it opposite. Just cause I can. I don't want to make me a pattern. Okay, so I'm gonna line it up as much as I can. Again, not a ruler, it's okay. And I'm gonna try to, I'm not gonna do it right next to that. I wanna keep a little bit of a space around there. So I'm gonna try to see, again, if it's not perfect, it's all right. Perfection is overrated, my opinion. Okay, so this point needs to go to that little, that point. This is the kissing of that. We're kissing. They're kissing. So I'm going to add that here again. Ooh, my little paper is kind of crooked on my grid. That might help me keep a little straighter. Okay, and add. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing this. So the important thing that I think is just to, whatever pattern that you choose, do the same thing, right? Do the same thing over and over again, because then it'll look like on purpose. Okay. So now I'm going to add again. See if I can make it straight here. Okay. And then I'm just going to add this paper, or stamp this paper. So, And I don't need to get my fingers inky. Notice I have not wiped off my stamps yet. It's okay. Some of you, oh, I didn't need to stamp all of that. Some of you know my whole theory on stamps. If you have a dirty stamp, it's a well-used stamp. You don't have to get it perfectly clean. I'm just trying not to get, oh look, I smudged already. See, that's all right. That's all right. I'll color it in. Okay, so these have to be the same direction. I'm talking and not really focusing. Okay. All right. So now we're just going to do the next line. Okay, so we're just going to keep going across. So this one needs to be in the same shape as, so this is kind of the upside down one. So it needs to go this way. And here we go. So I love, love, love these stamps. I think Tracy is an amazing artist. I wish I could draw. I'm a consumer of her stuffs. She has, so it's Tracy Scott. She's a designer for PaperArtsy. She has a ton of classes that you can take. I have a bunch of them that I have not finished yet because I have a bunch of them, but they're fairly priced. So $15, well, 15 pounds. So she's in the UK. You can take them 15 pounds. She has a couple day ones. So you can see her work there. You can also go to her Facebook page. It's Tracy's Creative Cafe, or Tracy Scott Creative Cafe. I'll link it below in the comment section so you could find her. She's brilliant, brilliant. PaperArtsy is one of my favorite companies. And I've created my own hashtag for PaperArtsy that I use, PaperArtsy Superfans. Hashtag PaperArtsy Superfans. Because I love them all. But check them out on Facebook. You will get inspired, so inspired by her artwork, just by her. She's an amazing trainer, an amazing teacher of her art. And I love that she shares this all with us. So, and you might see me on a class or two, because the minute she publishes a class, I'm like, yes, please. She does it on Facebook Live. So one day I'll have classes on Facebook Live. One day. Okay, so here we go. Look at there. Okay, so I'm going to finish this one up. You guys get the gist. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up. So now that I've done all these papers, I also, now that I'm inspired to do something, what I want to do is put this in my art journal. So I have one more page in my art journal. So this is a Diane Reevely Dylusions 9 by 12 journal. And I have all my pages filled, right? So all my pages are full except for this page. And they have like a cool rainbow effect. This is also Tracy Scott. I just did some stamping and some pen work on here, but I want to do maybe a rainbow thing on this side. So that pattern play that I did, right? If I pick one of my favorites, I could do the same thing in an art journal, okay? So since I have my stamps out and I'm looking at the pattern, right? I'm looking at the pattern play. I'm gonna put some paint down and then let it dry. I will do the pattern play. And when we come back, I'll talk about the pen work and all the things that I'm going to do. So I'm going to use PaperArtsy paints again, because I love the fresco finish and the chalk acrylics. So I have picked out a rainbow color. It doesn't matter what colors that you use. I just picked out, like, there's a cherry red, tango, yellow submarine, limelight, southern skies, and Byzantium. They have the most amazing names. Okay, so this is the rainbow that I'm going to use. And I'm going to use my fingers, okay? You have 10 amazing paintbrushes right on your fingers, and I don't want to get the cup out and the brush out and the apron out and all of those things, okay? So this is another technique I learned from Tracy. So she is a huge fan of just adding a background. I'm gonna cover that red since that red already existed right there. Just add your color. It doesn't need to be in order. Just add a little bit of paint. It doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't need to be the same shape. Okay, so there's red, and I have orange. Orange, let's do a little dot there. Some orange. I kind of want to put the orange next to it, so I'm going to try to follow the Roy G. Biv, maybe, as much as possible. It doesn't matter. Everybody's going to look at it and go, it's a rainbow. It's a rainbow. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to get all of my pens and my embossing stuff and go make it pretty. And then I will be right back to show you what I did, right? How that I made that pretty and maybe what I'm going to do with it. So this is going to dry. Be back in a second. Hi guys, so I'm back, and I'm going to show you what I did with the pen work, okay? So here's that page that I did, that we stamped before I left, and magically, through the powers of the interwebs, it's colored now. So I use these 4 different colors. This is a Zig Clean Color Reel brush. It has a kind of a felt tip to color with. It's a water-based ink. You can use it as a watercolor. I just have a bunch of mustache, so I used a pink, a turquoise, a orange, and a yellow, and I colored these. I also used a Copic marker. It doesn't matter, you can use any black multi-liner. I just happened to have this handy. Copic marker, it's permanent ink, so it's good to use permanent ink in case you use white stuff or wet stuff on top of it. Then I used a Uni-ball Signo white gel pen. This is my favorite gel pen to use. We sell these at the shop, not the Copic markers, these at the shop. I could probably order these if you need them, but these and like a food ball pen. I didn't use the food ball because I didn't necessarily need it, and I didn't need it for the really thick lines, okay? So those are the 2 pens that I used. So here's an example. I didn't do all of them in this sample, but I wanted to show you the difference. So here is where I didn't do any of the pen work, and it looks beautiful just the way it is. Yeah, it's beautiful. But look at what happens when you add the pen work. Okay, so it just kind of makes that pop. It adds a whole different dimension. So see this, this guy over here. Okay, this guy. So there's the difference between the 2. And it didn't take, I mean, it took a little bit of time to do, but not as much as the markering. So it just added an extra dimension. So when you have your stamps out, you just grab some markers and color it. And then what I can do with this at the background is just use it as a background on my art journal. I could cut these out and use them as elements. I could put a focal element here, maybe a quote, put it in my art journal. But an easy project to sit and do, and kind of relaxing, I will admit. I don't generally like to color because it stresses me out, but I liked it. I was able to focus. Okay, so that's an example. The other example is my art journal. So remember, I colored it, we painted it with my fingers, made a rainbow page. We did the pattern play on this. So we have the the stamps. So the stamps that I used was these stamps here. So I used this stamp here and this stamp here, and I stamped on top of it, but it was really busy because it had a lot of colors. It had a lot of kind of the background. So I took paint. So I took this Fresco Finish Iceberg. It's an opaque paint, not quite white, so it's a little bit blue. And I painted around the edges. It took me a while. Had a little tiny little paintbrush, painted on the inside there. And once I was done, I added the pen work. So again, you can see the difference between, I didn't do this one. So this is without any pen work. This is with pen work, okay? So I did the white pen around it, the same as I did on the paper. This is just the pen, right? I didn't do any of the white pen work there. But once the paint was dry, so that's key, wait until your paint is dry. Because some people struggle with waiting. I don't have any patience either. But once you wait for that paint to dry, you can take your pen and just kind of trace around the edges, and it just kind of makes that pattern pop, okay? Key is you could do the same thing. So if you have a pattern, you want to make sure that you do the same thing over and over again. Sometimes I struggle with that because I can't remember what I did. Okay, but you just add that pen work. To get your mojo back, you just take your stamps, take a piece of paper, get some ink out. Some of these stamps, if you don't have these specific stamps, that's okay. Take any stamp. You can do a butterfly stamp. You can do a dragonfly stamp. You can do any type of those stamps. Make a pattern on a piece of paper. Remember, it was really easy to just kind of line it up. Don't need a ruler, pencil, all those things. You just kind of, if it's crooked, it's okay. Make some of these patterns. Then once you've done that, you've made something really pretty, really cool, then you can add things with your markers, with your pencils, any of those extra elements, and the pen work, okay? So that's what you can do. So thanks for joining me. I will list all the products that I used today below. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel because more to come. Art journal, I don't know. We'll see what comes next, okay? Thank you so much for joining me. Have a fabulous day, and we will art together soon.